Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum denied Trump's statements that she had agreed to close the borders to stop migration. The Vice President and Minister of Oil of Venezuela condemned the far-right destabilizing actions aimed at the country's oil sector. The summit of the Collective Security Treaty Organization began in Kazakhstan's focus on ensuring the security of all member states. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum rejected U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's assertion about Mexico's supposed stance to stop migration by closing the U.S.-Mexico border. The Mexican president clarified that she does not intend to close the migratory passage with the United States, but to build bridges between governments to help each other. The head of state explained that during a phone call conversation with U.S. President-elect, strategies were discussed to address the migration phenomenon through collaboration on security issues. She also remarked that the measure is part of a campaign to protect sovereignty and prevent the entry of fentanyl to the country.
Everyone has their own way of communicating, but I can assure you, I give you the certainty that we would never, besides we would be unable, they proposed us to close the border in the north of our country and in the south of the United States. It has never been our proposal. And of course, we do not agree with that. So President Trump has his own way of communicating, but we talked about this strategy on the phone call. And I told him that this caravan of migrants that you are referring to in your publication is not going to reach the northern border because Mexico has a strategy. So that was how the conversation went.
The Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel assured on Wednesday that the country is ready to face any administrations that occupies the White House. From the municipality of Las Lajas in the province of Cienfuegos, the head of state shared a group of farmers and neighbors of the area that neither Republicans nor Democrats have represents change for the island. In addition to reiterating that they are ready for the administration that will begin on January, and recognizing the awareness, but also the extraordinary effort of the Cuban people in the face of the sanctions. He also insisted that Havana remains open to any dialogue with Washington, but with equality and respect.
For us, the result.
The Cuban president keeps the door open to the dialogue with Washington, but without impositions.
And we have always stated that we have nothing against the people of the United States, and that we are willing to work on equal terms with the government of the United States, but in equality and confidences, without impositions, with respect, and of course nothing that affects our sovereignty or our independence. And that is our position.
In Panama, organizations in solidarity with Cuba held a first peace forum at the University of Panama to condemn the economic, financial, and commercial blockade imposed by the United States against the Cuban people. During the conference, recognized by national education workers' unions, the social sectors made a call to respect the sovereignty and self-determination of the people, so while clarifying the blockade against Cuba as the most comprehensive and prolonged system of unilateral coercive measures in history. They also denounced the unjust inclusion of Cuba on the list of countries sponsoring terrorism. Let's take our very first break, but remember, you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of the America's People's Trade Treaty, ALBO TCP, made up with a team of anti-fascist promoters in the framework of the International Anti-Fascist Forum for a New World. During the meeting, the executive secretary of the bloc, Jorge Arriaza, recalled the alliance between Cuba and Venezuela during the organization's inception. In this sense, Arriaza stated that the objectives of President Hugo Chavez was to create a Bolivarian alternative with the alliance of the peoples of our Americas. Furthermore, ALBO TCP's executive secretary stated that the plan to control the whole America was burned with the emergence of the United States as a nation. Still in Venezuela, the Vice President and Minister of Oil, Delcy Rodriguez, condemned the actions of the extreme right of the country against this sector in order to gain political power through destabilizing actions. During a meeting for the harmonization of academic profiles in hydrocarbons and mining areas in the country, Rodriguez assured that Venezuela has been safely exploiting its oil reservoirs for over a century. In this meeting, the high official also condemned the recent criminal attacks perpetrated by the extreme right wing against the gas sectors and highlighted that this violent incident was performed by the extreme right wing to gain at any cost the access to Venezuela's political power.
And I would never want, at this time of permanent attacks on our industry which, as I have said, it has been the main target of the criminal blockade against Venezuela. I have never wanted to miss the opportunity to highlight the knowledge and expertise of our workers in this industry. Very recently, after a criminal attack against the gas distribution center of the country, the recovery has been possible thanks to 800 workers of PDVSA, who from different places in the country from different parts of the country gathered to recover the gas service for the Venezuelan people.
And this Wednesday, the Minister of Internal Justice and Peace of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, confirmed that a former candidate of the opposition coalition, Edmundo González, will not return to the country in January. He also, first Vice President of the United Socialist Party of the nation, have an account of a campaign initiated by the violent far-right opposition. In this way, Cabello reports that the opposition is trying to threaten the Venezuelan people by various means, insinuating more than evasive by González a situation of chaos and violence in the country until January the 10th. Recently, members of the extremist opposition disrespecting conditions of exile and even challenging the militants have made calls to take to the streets to set the stage for a supposed takeover. Brazilian Supreme Court of Justice began on Wednesday debating on a regulation of social media in view of the spread of fake news and hate speech. The starting point of the regulation was a police inquiry into an alleged fraud coup plot in 2022. The case involved former President Jair Bolsonaro. Authorities could determine that criminals use social media to misinform about the reliability of the electoral system to justify serious offenses. In addition, the court will decide whether social media platforms will be sanctioned for illegal publications or not by the 2025. The entity has examined 4 cases related to the rules for social media platforms and their responsibility for contents published by users. We continue in Brazil, but in other topics, where the heavy rains that hit the capital of the state of Bahia have caused more than 300 incidents, leaving 1 person dead and injuring 3 others. According to the country's National Institute of Meteorology, November has been the rainiest month since 1971 in the region. The downpours have also caused the electric service to be disconnected after the fall of high-tension cables. While in Salvador de Bahia, a structured collapse on a main venue prompting the debris removal efforts to be activated afterwards as the search for a missing person continues. In this context, authorities report that public transportations covering the area had to be diverted and businesses were unable to open their doors. In Chile, public sector's employees are holding a national strike to demand better working conditions. With the support of the National Association of Public Employees and the Unitary Central of Workers, the demonstrators plan mobilizations in 15 Chilean cities, including the capital, Santiago. The unions indicate that the strike is aimed at accelerated judgments, a 3-hour working week, and gender equity. These actions are taking place in the midst of public sectors disconnected with the replacements of the director of the Comptroller General Office outside the stipulated 5-year period of legitimate trust. The Honduran legislature affirmed on Wednesday to extend to January the 5th, 2025, the national state of exception. In this regard, the Honduran parliament described the governmental policy as positive, granted in the current state of exception allows security forces to combat criminal groups more effectively. The Prime Minister of Haiti, Axel Didier Filsheim, reported that he is working on a humanitarian aid operation for people displaced by the escalating violence of criminal groups in the nation. The World Food Program will embrace the operation that is set to distribute hot meat to over 23,000 refugees. The food will be handed out for 14 days at 4 strategic points in Port-au-Prince. The dynamic seeks to temporarily defuse the critical situation due to the existence violence in the city. According to the International Organization for Migration, at least 41,000 people have been forced to leave their homes in a 10-day period. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, sub stories, special broadcasts, and more. The subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. When financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. The summit of the Collective Security Treaty Organization began on Thursday in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. Its leader affirms that a coalition will ensure the security of all its members. The head of state of Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, and Kyrgyzstan met to discuss the political military situation in the collective security regions and prospects for further cooperation within the powerful bloc. The House President Kasim Takayev reaffirmed the collective commitment to maintain peace and security in the area. Moving on, Israeli tanks broke the ceasefire agreement reached with Lebanon as artillery hit at least 3 towns in the country's southern region. Precisely, the areas of Markaba, Wazani, and Beersheba were attacked by the Zionis in an aggression that has yet to be reported by Israeli forces and which left at least 3 people wounded. Despite the validity of the ceasefire agreement that started on Wednesday at 4 a.m. local time, the Zionist forces attacked these cities a few kilometers from the Blue Line, the areas that limits Lebanon from the occupation. Despite the agreements reached with the intervention of the United States and France, Israel has not completely withdrawn its troops from the borderline. Thousands of Lebanese have returned home since Beirut and Tel Aviv agreed to a 60-day ceasefire, while in Gaza genocidal troops continue to bomb camps full of women and children. Today, they complete 56 days of armed siege and blockades to humanitarian aid in Beit Halia in the north of Gaza. Along the strip, the occupying forces have assassinated more than 20 civilians, among them a pregnant woman, in the last 24 hours. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed at least 4,282 Palestinians and wounded 880 others since October 7, 2023. The Palestinian Popular Resistance Committees thanked the struggle of the Islamic resistance movements of Lebanon and Hezbollah in support of Palestinian civilians and fighters in the Gaza Strip. The communique shared that the gestures of the Islamic resistance in support of the Palestinian people will be recorded in history. They highlight the sacrifices of thousands of martyrs in the last 13 months in the midst of this struggle against the Zionist enemy. They also point out that the ceasefire agreement with Lebanon would not have been possible without the steadfastness of these people. The Commission for Prisoners and Ex-Prisoners Affairs denounced the mistreatment of Palestinian women in Israeli prisons. The organization warned about the increase in abuses against Palestinian prisoners since October 2023, which worsened over time. In this regard, it points out that Israeli prisons authorities are denying the detainees blankets and winter clothing despite the drops in temperatures, as well as preventing the entry of hygiene and personal care items. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials, we're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, and from the south of Marrero, thank you for watching.